2009. He had returned back in time by 10 years. It took Pei Kaiyan a moment of uneasiness before he accepted the truth with relative calmness. Ever since he graduated in 2013, he had been in 2 industries and changed jobs through multiple companies, meeting with extremely horrendous bosses while enduring the politics of corporate life. In any case, he was nothing but a slave of society. He was naturally ecstatic for something as wonderful as transmigrating to happen to him. Restarting life from 10 years ago, this was something that everyone could only dream of. Completely awake now, Pei Kaiyan flipped and sat on his bed. What should he do next? Right then, a transparent screen appeared before Pei Kaiyan as lines of words began to fill up. Binding of the wealth conversion system in progress. Binding success. Owner Pei Kaiyan, please read through the instruction manual of the system. What's going on? Pei Kaiyan was startled and overjoyed. Indeed, there would always be a system after transmigration. His cheat had arrived. Calm down, calm down. These were the usual patterns of how things went. It was nothing to fuss about. Pei Kaiyan composed himself before long and looked at the message on the screen. Wealth conversion system. Profit/loss conversion ratio, pending. System funds, 50,000. Personal wealth, 443. This was a menu. At the bottom of the menu was a dialog box used to display dynamic information. That must be the instruction manual. Wealth conversion rules. During set periods, the system will provide the owner with a fixed amount of system funds. This fund can only be used for a company's business activities and is not meant to be squandered. A tabulation for settlement will be conducted after a period of time, and in accordance to the system's profits/losses, a conversion to the owner's personal wealth would be made based on the set ratio. Special notice: in order to encourage the owner to focus on work, the owner may not pay himself a salary through the company's accounts. Next step, check out the detailed rules. Whoa, this is a sure win system. You're not only providing me with funds, you're even giving me money, a system with a conscience. Instantly, Pei Kaiyan understood the functions of the system. Even though both the system funds and personal wealth aspects referred to money, they were completely different concepts. The 443 of the personal wealth referred to Pei Kaiyan's total amount of money, which amounted to 443 yuan. This was money he could spend freely. As for the 50,000 yuan, those were the system funds. According to the system's rules, that amount of money could only be for business activities such as incorporating a company. After a period of time, be it whether he profits or loses, it will be converted to his personal wealth based on the set ratio, and he could spend it as he wishes by then. Exciting, let's take a look at the detailed rules. Pei Kaiyan continued tapping on the screen. The owner must engage in normal, logical, and legal business activities that require some technical skills. The following are violations of the rules. Do take note. Profit category. 1. Large-scale purchasing or manipulating of property prices. 2. Purchasing of cryptocurrency, engaging in Ponzi schemes and illegal crowdfundings or similarly illegal activities. 3. Engaging in speculating and profiteering of stocks and materials or disrupting market forces. Tap here to display the remaining 97 violations. Loss category. 1. Doing charity or gifting of companies to others. 2. Procuring or employing employees, renting office spaces and purchasing of equipment at prices way above market rates. 3. Extreme idleness, abnormally low efficiency rate and long durations of not producing any value. Tap here to display the remaining 97 violations. Additional rule: owner must not reveal or hint at the existence of the system to anyone. The system holds the final decision on the definition of any violations. Next step, randomly generated profit-loss conversion ratio. Such strict rules. Pei Kaiyan checked through the 200 violations, and his plans were eliminated one after another. Speculating in property and purchasing of cryptocurrency were all banned by the system. He could engage in normal investments and wealth management, but their annual returns were too little to satisfy him. Through the 200 violations, Pei Kaiyan was not only limited in profit activities, he was also limited for the loss activities. All in all, he was banned from doing anything illegal. Pei Kaiyan continued tapping on the screen to head to the next step. Profit-loss conversion ratio being generated randomly. Profit conversion ratio is at 101. Loss conversion ratio is at 1:1. Hold on, this ratio. Pei Kaiyan looked at it carefully, realizing that there seemed to be a bug. Wasn't the loss conversion ratio overly high? If he were to lose all of the system funds, he could convert all of it to his personal wealth. Losing money would be a winning situation for him. I was given such a great conversion ratio through a random generation. Lady Luck must be smiling at me. It's a pity that the profit conversion ratio is a little too low. But oh well, losing money is much easier than earning it. Pei Kaiyan felt as though his luck was off the roofs. Final step, please name your company. Click here to enter. Pei Kaiyan contemplated for a moment before filling the space with his thoughts. Tengda Network Technology Co., Limited. Tengda represented soaring and soaring to meteoric rises. That was his wish, for the company to soar to great heights as soon as possible. Tengda Network Technology Co., Limited. Registration completed. With the final step completed, the words on the screen disappeared and the menu returned to its initial state. Note, if there are unannounced products a week before settlement, the settlement date would be postponed. Postponement date would be determined by the system. Pei Kaiyan pondered over the meaning of the additional notes. He can't have any unannounced products a week before settlement. That made sense. If there wasn't such a rule, he could dump any remaining system funds before the settlement into the development of the new product, causing the system funds to empty out, and that would be a loophole. With this rule, Pei Kaiyan had to push out all his products on hand a week before settlement, such that they would be accountable for any profits or losses. This was a step he couldn't avoid anymore. Another loophole closed, but it doesn't matter. So what I have to do next is to turn the system funds from 50,000 down to 0, while increasing my personal wealth from 443 to 50,443. I just have to start losing money within the rules, right? That doesn't seem too difficult. Pei Kaiyan was brimming with confidence. Opening a company while creating value and new products in a normal way. As the company's boss, all he had to do was let that normalcy go slightly astray. Wasn't that all there was to it? Of all the companies created, there were only few which had succeeded while everyone else failed. It's clear which was the easiest path to go about. Copyright novel full, all rights reserved. So the question now is which field I should enter. After pondering about it, Pei Kaiyan decided that he should first get to know the situation of this world. Opening his laptop, he ran a search on Kaindu search engine and began looking up recent news, particularly those on technology. There's some differences, albeit small ones. Pei Kaiyan had a rough idea of things. Similar to his previous world, the trend still revolved around the internet, technology, games, and cultural industries. Pei Kaiyan could choose to enter any industry. That was something the system had no restrictions on. However, in order to create value and not violate the system's rules, Pei Kaiyan had to employ relevant professionals while starting the company. Towards industries that he wasn't familiar with, Pei Kaiyan had no confidence in navigating things. What if the professionals he employed were really incredible and ended up making the project a success? After much contemplation, Pei Kaiyan decided on the games industry. Even though Pei Kaiyan hadn't been in the games industry personally, he had played tons of games. With such an influence, he had a rough understanding of the industry. Compared to the other industries, he felt more confident in his ability to navigate through the games industry. By changing some of the gameplay slightly, he could create a game that could fail. That was a huge advantage he had. Besides, it was easy to burn money in the games industry. For physical industries, he could still sell the fixed assets to recoup, and that wouldn't be a total loss. However, in the games industry, the losses would be thorough and result in worthless codes. With his memories of the world 10 years later, as long as he intentionally avoided creating profit-making games, wouldn't he be done? Step 1, make the game. Step 2, lose money and have the system funds converted to his personal wealth entirely. Step 3, spend to his heart's content. That's how perfect things are going to be. Pei Kaiyan felt that he was an absolute genius. After deciding on his direction, Pei Kaiyan looked up the official site of the Bureau of Commerce and downloaded his company's management profile by logging in successfully with his ID card number and an initial password. There was a company registered under his name, Tengda Network Technology Co., Limited, and there was 50,000 yuan worth of funds. This must have been registered for him using the system's black technology. In the aspect of entrepreneurship, there's a huge difference between Pei Kaiyan's previous life and this parallel world of simplified difficulty. In order to encourage more citizens to start their own businesses, There was a low barrier of entry to creating companies, and most of the procedures were intelligentized and could be completed online and at the client's end. This was extremely helpful for entrepreneurs, and was even Pei Kaien's previous world that was 10 years ahead could not match up in this aspect. There were other similar changes. For example, thanks to the rapid advancement in telecommunications and cloud technology, many industries gathered their networks and resources, and that raised the efficiency of working online. Take the games industry, for example. There was a unified official organization, Entertainment Software Ranking Organization. ESRO for short. They are in charge of regulating and auditing across different genres of games. At the same time, ESRO has an official website for resources that's open for all entrepreneurs. One could view ESRO's official site as a compilation of the domestic games market's resources. Here, one could pay to purchase universally usable art resources, programming templates, design manuscripts, or even hire professionals to customize their own games. These art resources, programming templates, and whatnot were all shared by individuals or companies within the industry, and anyone could use them at a cost. But of course, these were all resources that were more common and on the lower end. On the website, one could contact certain hotshots such as top-tiered designers and negotiate with them to work together. Other than that, ESRO has even compiled all the common game editors on the market and simplified them to launch an official game editor of their own. As long as one would take the effort to learn, most people would be able to handle it even without actual programming background. The current ecosystem in the games industry was similar to 2009 in Pei Kaien's previous life. For example, the hottest internet games had gone from World of Warcraft to Fantasy World, CS to Counter-Strike, DOTA to Gods Rising. They may seem different on the surface, but their gameplays were about the same. There was a clear improvement for mobile games, probably owing to the faster hardware development here compared to his previous life. For example, in Pei Kaien's previous life, mobile card games only started gaining traction in 2012 thanks to the smartphone trend. However, due to the earlier development of smartphones in this world in 2008, similar games have already appeared since then, and the game genre have already matured by now. If that's the case, the situation's rather optimistic. All I have to do is to spend the 50,000 yuan completely on the website to purchase templates and art resources. I'll then create a game that nobody wants to play and can't sell out. 2 weeks later, this will count as a loss. Perfect. Decided, Pei Kaien started searching for templates that he wanted on the website. Driving simulator basic template, 20,000 yuan with a complimentary drawing of a car's exterior and interiors. Background template, desert road template, 15,000 yuan. If I want the environment to change accordingly, I'll need another 8,000 yuan. That adds up to 23,000. A little expensive, but that's exactly how I want it to be. I've still got some money left over. Radio music, choose 30 out of 100 songs or allow it to play randomly from the system's song library. 6,000. 1,000 yuan left. I'll get a simple ranking function then. Can't afford anything else anyways. After contemplating, Pei Kaien placed the orders furiously on the website and wiped his 50,000 yuan clean. In truth, these resources were not expensive. Inserted into the game editor, the driving simulator template would be able to create the basic functions of a driving simulator game. Accelerating, braking, turning and crashing, etc., they were all complete. As for the desert road background, the game editor supports editing of its distance that causes the desert background to appear with random changes as well. Coupled with the environmental change function, there's sunsets, sunrises, and sandstorms alongside other changes. Because these were universal templates, many indie game creators would purchase them as well, so there was a 100% chance that there would be similarity clashes. In order to not have clashes, some creators would customize some art resources to create variations. Naturally, that translates to an increase in investment costs. However, that wasn't something Pei Kaien was concerned about. Clash, go on, I'm here to lose money anyways. If gamers choose not to play this game because of clashes, I couldn't be happier. Pei Kaien began to create his game. Even though his aim was to lose money, the game had to be good enough to pass through ESRO's vetting approval before it can be sold successfully. If it's a half-finished product because of functional deficiencies and failed ESRO's vet, the system may judge it as Pei Kaien's violation of the rules. As such, no matter how messed up the game is, it has to be functional. After inserting the basic and background template into the game editor, the framework of the game was done. Upon entering the game, players would be able to start driving on a desert road. However, the purchased resources must not be wasted. Pei Kaiyan added a radio function to the cars, such that players were able to turn on the radio while driving to listen to music. They were all simple or old and classic tunes. The trending songs couldn't be purchased so cheaply. Thereafter came a crucial problem. What should be the core gameplay of this game? Pei Kaiyan had no idea at all. Should it be a racing game? Nah, no way. He had no money for that. All he could afford was a basic template with an image of a car and a background. As for those complex racing tracks and flashy cars, along with the algorithms for competitive racing, he couldn't afford them. How could he create those gameplays if he couldn't afford it? Slapping his head, Pei Kaiyan got it. The core gameplay of the game was simple, to just drive. One would complete the game just by driving from the start to end point. However, that alone wouldn't work. Since everything was compiled together with universal resources and there wasn't any innovative breakthroughs in gameplay, he wouldn't be able to make it through the vetting process. He had to make some changes to ensure that the game got through the vet. Yet, the changes mustn't be too spectacular. He still had to ensure that no one would want to play the game such that it would lose money. Pei Kaiyan pondered over it and decided to extend the desert road's background indefinitely and extend the gameplay to 8 hours. That's right, the players would have to drive for 8 hours before they could reach the end point. Also, there would be a turn every now and then along the way. That would make it impossible for the players to pass the game by pressing just a single button. That way, he should be able to pass the vetting process, since the gameplay differed from the existing driving simulators in the market. Besides, with such a messed-up gameplay, wouldn't he just be lambasted by the gamers? There's no way this game would earn money. Pei Kaiyan was overjoyed and lamented over what a genius he was. Finally, he created an endgame interface with an extremely simplistic method that merely displayed a single line of words. Congratulations for wasting 8 precious hours of your life. Even if someone were to complete the game, Pei Kaiyan had to ensure that they would be so pissed that they wouldn't want to play any games from his company ever again. In order to not waste the ranking function he bought, he created a time wasters ranking to tabulate the number of completions, as well as effective game time of every player. This was a useless ranking system which purely exists because money was spent on it. Before long, he was done with it. All of the functions were considered basic functions of the game editor and required simple drags and changing of parameters to execute. Basically, anyone with hands could do it. It took Pei Kaiyan less than 2 hours to complete the self-learning of the game editor, purchasing of resources and creation of the game. This retarded game is definitely going to lose me some money. After he was done with creating the game, Pei Kaiyan tested it on his laptop. After 5 minutes, he exited the game and was close to barfing. The only thing he did was drive, drive, and drive. It was bloody boring. Satisfied, Pei Kaiyan published the game right away. Game title, The Lonely Desert Road. Game summary, driving for a couple of hours on a lonely desert road will bring you some realizations about life. When he wrote the summary, Pei Kaiyan was conflicted. Should he brag about it? No, what if he were to attract a bunch of people to discuss on the title and he were to make less of a loss? Should he talk bad about it? No, that would be too obvious. On the one hand, the system may rule it as a violation. On the other hand, gamers might see it as reverse psychology. What if they were more tempted to play the more he talked bad about it? Therefore, he decided on writing a summary so honest that gamers should not feel the slightest bit of interest just by reading it. Next up, it was to set the price. Pei Kaiyan decided on a sale price of 1 yuan. He did not want to set it too high lest some brain-dead idiots really decided to buy it. He would then be losing less money. By setting the price low enough, Pei Kaiyan was ensuring that it wouldn't affect his loss even if a few dozen gamers were to buy it. After settling everything, Pei Kaiyan uploaded the game. Once it passes the vetting process, it would automatically be published on the official game's platform. The entire process would usually take between a couple of hours to a couple of days. The platform uses an automated recommendation system. New games of the same batches are recommended according to tracking of background data changes, and unless there is intentional manipulation of rankings, admins wouldn't interfere in it. Pei Kaiyan was completely unworried. Such a trashy game was bound to disappear from sites soon after it gets published. Once the 2 weeks deadline is up, the 50,000 yuan would be his. Amazing. Closing his laptop, Pei Kaiyan was relaxed as blissfulness spilled from his heart. That noon, his schoolmates returned one after another. One of them waved a plastic bag in his hands, containing food he bought from the canteen. Pei Kaiyan recognized him to be his former incarnation's dorm mate, Ma Yang. His huge, long face left a deep impression. "Brother Kaiyan, you've really got guts to skip class, but you really lucked out. The vice president didn't take attendance." Ma Yang looked at Pei Kaiyan with a "what kind of godly luck is that" expression. The other roommates started turning on their laptops. "No classes in the afternoon. Anyone up for games?" "I'm on hurry, Ma Yang, where are you?" "Hold on, I'm not done eating yet." "Hurry up, you slowpoke. Someone go get more people from the other dormitories." The other people in the dormitory had already turned on their laptops and propped up small, makeshift tables on their beds. Those were the dreary conditions of a school dormitory, such that there wasn't even a dedicated table for every bunk bed, and they could only play games while sitting cross-legged. Pei Kaiyan had always suspected that his back problems may have stemmed from this period of time. In order to obtain the best gaming experience, even if they had their own laptops and it was convenient to organize gaming sessions within dormitories, many students would prefer to head to internet cafes. Ma Yang was holding onto his stainless steel bowl that contained a plastic bag with food inside. Wolfing down a few bites hurriedly, he threw the entire plastic bag into the trash bin. The reason why everyone bought food from the canteen was because they had class that afternoon. If they had no class, everyone would be lying in their beds like corpses. If someone finally decides to head to the canteen, the rest would ask to get carried. But of course, takeaways appeared later on. However, they didn't have any takeaway apps at that time and would order through making phone calls. Some of the poorer students would do it as a part-time job to earn some side income. Ma Yang dashed outside and yelled. Before long, the game room was filled. Pei Kaiyan looked at the screen on the computer. It was a 5v5 multiplayer online battle arena, MOBA, called Gods Rising. Its gameplay was similar to DOTA and was just packaged differently. In terms of timeline, League of Legends also started gaining popularity from 2011. Even though it existed in 2009, it was extremely poorly made. Besides, that was based on Pei Kaiyan's previous knowledge. Given the current changes of this world, there was no guarantee that League of Legends would be created. During this period of time, MMORPGs still dominated internet cafes, and the hottest game was Fantasy World. Even though games such as Gods Rising were hot as well, they were more popular within dormitories as they weren't considered to be pure online games. While they were played in internet cafes and there were player versus player, PvP games, they could not match up to MMORPGs. "Brother Kaiyan, why do you seem like you're so dazed today? You didn't sleep well." Ma Yang was puzzled at Pei Kaiyan's state. "We're short of one. Are you coming?" Pei Kaiyan shook his head. "Nah, go look for someone else." "All right, I'll get old Wang from next door then." Ma Yang did not ask further. Before long, the two side-by-side dorms started booming. "The mid-laner's missing. Be careful." F***CK, how did he kill me? Hahaha, it was a 3-man gank and they still got killed. Noobs. Pei Kaiyan stood behind Ma Yang looking at his cursor fly around the screen while he worked the keyboard with his left hand. The rapid clicking sounds of the keyboard displayed Ma Yang's expertness. He then took a look at the scoreboard. It was 10 minutes in and the score was at 10-9. Ma Yang's kill-death KD was at 0-0. His roommates were getting flustered while he was missing last hits under the tower. Pei Kaiyan could not help but lament over how wonderful it was for everyone to be young back in 2009 and to be able to experience the joy of games. Ever since he had started working, he had bought tons of great games. However, they were all left to collect dust as he forgot all about them. Working life was extremely tiring, and the only thing he wanted to do after ending work was to lie down on the couch to scroll through websites or watch live streams. In fact, he was too lazy to play mobile games, let alone games that require such mechanical skills. Thankfully, things were different now. As long as he were to lose the system funds completely, he would be earning money effortlessly. He could then lead a happy life as a bum. Pei Kaiyan laid on his bed and thought merrily about his future. So how should he spend this first sum of 50,000 yuan? Perhaps he should get himself a high-end computer first. Next up, he'll rent a house and continue his life as a bum shamelessly. Phew. Pei Kaiyan could not help but snicker. So that concludes this week's Trash Games Diss. If you daddies enjoyed this week's episode, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. In a certain rental home in Beijing, a fat young man with thick eyebrows and huge, dispirited eyes sat before his computer recording videos listlessly. This was Cairo Liang, a famous Upmaster one on Potato Web's games section who goes by the nickname Teacher Cairo. His fans also endearingly called him Godfather of the Games channel because each time he ended his videos, he would call out Daddy. As a professional Upmaster, Cairo Liang was a little popular and had quite a number of fans. However, this was 2009 at the end of the day. Given the current ecosystem, his income was still basically unstable. If he received good sponsored partnerships, he would be revived momentarily and could enjoy a good meal at a restaurant. If not, he might have to survive with just plain soup and noodles, going on a diet by starving. Cairo Liang had tried going about different directions, but his Trash Games Diss segment was still the most well-received and had the most views, attracting a bunch of game-loving fans. Cairo Liang had another segment called New Recommended Games of the Month that was meant for sponsored partnerships. After all, he got popular through a segment called Trash Games Diss. However, there was no way any games merchants who wanted to work with him for sponsored posts would dare publish anything through that segment. As such, Cairo Liang created New Recommended Games of the Month just for sponsored partnerships. It's just that compared to Trash Games Diss, there were way too little followers. After he finished recording the latest episode of Trash Games Diss, Cairo Liang did not publish it for a long time. He felt that it lacked something. Yes, that's right, it lacked soul. The games mentioned this time round seemed to have nothing special other than being plain trash. Even after preparing his synopsis, materials, voiceover, and recording the entire process diligently, Cairo Liang felt that while the episode was watchable, there was no sensationalism to it. The games were so trashy that they did not have a talking point. That bothered Cairo Liang terribly. After all, he was banking on this to make a living. If his viewership does not go up, it would be difficult for him to receive better sponsored partnerships. Therefore, Cairo Liang was in no hurry to publish the latest episode. Instead, he browsed through the new games recommendation list on the official games platform, looking for his special trash to showcase. Right then, he found himself getting hungry and dug out a packet of instant noodles before boiling water, preparing to replenish his energy. When the water boiled, Cairo Liang continued his search for the new games. The Lonely Desert Road. What kind of a **T game is this? Cairo Liang looked at the game's summary. A simulated driving journey that makes you contemplate life. How do you contemplate life? That summary stirred at Cairo Liang's curiosity. As a professional content creator of the games section, Cairo Liang was basically someone who would play any games that piqued his interest. He clicked on the game, and before long, the download was complete as it turned on automatically. It starts just like that. The water in the kettle had yet to boil, and Cairo Liang had no time to bother about it as he entered the game. There was no opening scene or animation nor any options as the player entered the game right away. In the vast desert, a long, curving road extended indefinitely. It was a first-person point of view from within the car, and there was a simple instruction interface, while controls could be done with either keyboard or controller. It was completely identical to the mainstream racing genre games in the market. Cairo Liang looked at the image on the screen and acknowledged that the controls were fitting. After all, this was a set template where the upper and lower limits were not too extreme. Picking up his controller from the side, Cairo Liang hooked it up to the computer and began the game. The car started moving. Cairo Liang meandered along the road and drove on. It was morning in the game and the sun had just risen, so the brightness wasn't too glaring. Sand danced about wildly in the desert, and there were a series of sandstorms in the distance which would affect the visibility limits of the by reducing it. The road snaked ahead. It wasn't a straight path, and there were turns every now and then. Click. The water in the kettle had boiled over. Cairo Liang was driving as he sank into his thoughts. What am I doing? What should I be doing? What does this game hope for me to do? He had been driving for 3 minutes now. Indeed, there were several turns, but there was nothing else that interested him besides that. Driving, turning, looking at sandstorms in the distance. Other than that, the game had nothing else. In fact, there wasn't even any other cars on this desert road. Cairo Liang wanted to go cook his noodles, and he pressed for the menu button. However, there was no reaction. Cairo Liang. For any other games, this would have been a pause button, but there was no reaction for this game. Thinking that it was a bug, Cairo Liang held onto his controller while tapping on the ESC, space, and return keys on his keyboard. Still no reaction. This game can't be paused. Cairo Liang was completely stunned. In his moment of astoundedness, he lost his focus and missed a turn, driving off the road and sinking into the sand. Game over. 8 simple alphabets appeared on his screen. Jaws agape, Caio Liang fell into disbelief. This game had truly redefined his knowledge of trashy games. No, strictly speaking, this can't be considered as a trashy game. Trashy games were often due to a lack of quality, funding, or objectivity from the side of the creators that leads to a compromise in certain aspects, such that gamers would get a sense that it was poorly made. But this game was different. It seemed as though it was aiming to disgust others. Why else would it not have a pause function or a save point, displaying a game over at every single failure? Hold on, this is interesting. Perhaps this might be popular as a diss video. Caio Liang cooked his noodles hurriedly and started analyzing the game's title and summary. The Lonely Desert Road. There's an emphasis on lonely. A simulated driving journey that makes you contemplate life. Indeed, I'm truly contemplating about life right now. This summary has not lied to me at all. Seems like this game is truly filled with evil intents. The company that produced this game is called Tengda Network Technology Co., Limited. I haven't heard of them, and this seems to be their only game. After finishing his noodles, Caio Liang took up his controller once more. However, he turned on his recording software this time round, ready to record his entire progress. 3 hours later, Caio Liang was slightly distracted, and he missed a turn, sinking the car into the sand and ending the game. FFFF*CK. Caio Liang was so pissed that he nearly threw his controller on the table. That was 3 hours. He had spent 3 hours doing nothing but driving the car in the desert. Yet, he was greeted by a merciless game over that announced his failure. 3 precious hours of his life had left him just like that. Other than wasting electricity, he had not created any form of value. Even the recorded video was useless. Of the entire 3 hours worth of recording, only the few seconds of his final moments could be edited into a failure compilation. Caio Liang threw the controller onto the computer desk while getting up to compose himself. He didn't smash the controller because he was too poor. That controller cost at least 200 yuan. If he had accidentally damaged it, he would have been heartbroken. Huff. Calm down. It's all for work. Very well, this game has successfully triggered my wrath. I have to say that it's a good quality for a trash game to possess. Caio Liang regained his composure before long. As a professional master of dissing trash games, he had been through tons of hardships and challenges. A small fry like this was something he should be able to hold up against. However, Caio Liang has also realized that it wasn't going to be an easy task clearing this game. This was a challenge. Therefore, Caio Liang made a phone call for a takeaway. He was lucky that he had lost the game early. If it were any later, there wouldn't be any takeaway services left. Seizing the opportunity, Caio Liang laid down on the bed for a nap to recover some energy. After he woke up and ate his fill, he placed a large glass of water on the table and prepared himself for the drawn-out battle. He was already getting the hang of the game. Was there any difficulty to this game? No. It was no exaggeration to claim that anyone with hands could clear this game. There were no sharp turns nor meddling police cars that would rush at you. In fact, there wasn't even any speed requirements for the players. The only difficulty was time. If even 3 hours spent could not complete the journey, there was no telling how much longer there was to go. Players would instinctively want to increase the speed of the car to end the game faster. However, that would require even more focus, or they may miss any turns they come across. The moment they drive off the road, they would have to begin all over again. If they wanted to go at a steady pace, they would have to drive slower. However, that would end up extending the game time. Messed up, this is really messed up. Caio Liang felt an unprecedented surge in his desire to both challenge and diss this game. If he could create a dissing video out of this game, just the title alone would be clickbait for tons of views. Gritting his teeth, Caio Liang entered the game to fight it once more. More than 8 hours later. Late night. Holy F***CK. I've cleared it, I've really bloody cleared it. Caio Liang was on the brink of tears as he could finally see the finish line. It was a commonly drawn finish line, as though many of the racing car games out there had used the same universal art resource. However, for Caio Liang in his current state, the black and white striped finish line never felt more intimate than at this moment. His eyes were brimming with tears. Holding his controller, he stood up from his computer chair. His back was aching dearly, and his hands were slightly cramping up. Even his eyes could barely stay open because he had been burning the midnight oil for too long. However, he had persevered through the 8 hours. It was not for naught. Kaio Liang was so emotional that he could not even understand what sort of feelings he was experiencing at the moment. At the moment the car crossed the finish line, he felt as though he was possessed by the god of cars. At that moment, he was the most handsome lad on the entire racetrack. Right after the screen turned black and a line of words appeared. Congratulations for wasting 8 precious hours of your life. Kaio Liang was confounded. That's it. He had cleared the game. That line of words was the only thing he received. Shouldn't you at least make a trophy for me? Make a podium. Even if you don't have those art resources, make me a sound effect of people cheering. How much does cheering sound effects even cost? Must you be that stingy? I spent 8 hours clearing this, and all you gave me was a black screen and a mocking remark. Kaio Liang could not take it any longer, be it physically or mentally. He had truly invested deeply, and he was so pissed at this game that he wanted to cry. However, despite his despair and infuriation, there was a slight consolation in his heart, a slight relief. It wasn't that he was a masochist. He knew that this was precious material for him. Wouldn't his audiences click for more likes and shares seeing their up master in such misery? Kaio Liang checked for a moment. His 8 hours of journey had been recorded completely. Just you wait, I'll settle you after I wake up. Kaio Liang said to the game harshly before saving his recording properly and sinking into bed for a deep sleep. 3 days later, Pei Kaiyan woke up naturally in his dormitory, feeling happiness in his life. He had adapted himself to university life once more during this period of time. He could wake up naturally every day without having to worry about work, the pressure of hitting KPIs, or facing the temper of his superiors. All in all, there was only a single word for it: contentment. But of course, things would be better if he was richer. First thing to do upon waking up, summoning the system. Wealth conversion system. Owner Pei Kaiyan. Profit conversion ratio 100:1. Loss conversion ratio 1:1. Next settlement, 11 days later. System funds, 0, down arrow 50, 000. Personal wealth, 367. When he saw the 0 in the system, Pei Kaiyan felt a sense of satisfaction. Amazing. As for the pathetic figure behind his personal wealth status, there was nothing he could do about it. He was already trying his best, but he couldn't save any money at all. He only had 1,000 yuan monthly for living expenses. Even if he were to eat in the canteen daily, it still wouldn't be enough. After all, he couldn't use all his money just for food. There had to be other daily expenses, right? Pei Kaiyan could not wait for the settlement 11 days later where his system funds, loss would be converted to his personal wealth entirely. That would be amazing. The system funds was still at 0 because the profits of the gaming platform hadn't been shared to the company's accounts yet. The SRO's game platform processes payment weekly using its intelligent system automatically. The creators and the platform split the profits evenly. If one wishes to check on their income and the download figures before payment day, they could inquire at the back end of the game editor. During the first 2 days when the game was uploaded, Pei Kaiyan was sneaking peeks at the back end all the time only to find out that there were dozens of unlucky fools who had bought and downloaded the game. Since it was a new game after all and there were occasional recommendation spots every now and then, it was only normal that some stupid gamers would download and try it. A dozen of downloads. After splitting profits with the platform, it would just be a couple of yuan earned and wouldn't affect the big picture. Besides, all of those gamers had naturally given it a 1-star review as well. With that, the Lonely Desert Road's ratings were absolutely horrendous, and there shouldn't be more stupid gamers who would download it. After being affirmed that his game was bound to fail, Pei Kaiyan spent his day in joy and hadn't checked the game editor anymore. Even though he was certain that checking the game editor today wouldn't make any difference, he still did it instinctively. He was approaching it with an attitude of curiosity. While other creators would always be hoping for greater results for their games, and even wish that there could be tens or hundreds of thousands of downloads with every refresh, Pei Kaiyan, on the other hand, was hoping for atrocious results and even a big, fat 0 as the best possible outcome. If I'm not wrong, the downloads should still be in 2 digits. Holy F asterisk CK. What happened? Pei Kaiyan was dumbfounded. He was shocked at the download volume. It had reached 4 digits and was even climbing towards 5. Slapping his forehead with his right hand, Pei Kaiyan nearly thought that he was seeing things. How could there be 8,000 plus downloads? It's about to break through 10,000 soon. There's still 10 days to the settlement date. Pei Kaiyan was flustered, completely panicked. Things had gone far beyond his expectations. This was a math problem that even an elementary school kid could solve. A download volume of over 8,000 means an equivalent gross of over 8,000 yuan as well. After the 50% deduction from the platform, he would have a net profit of over 4,000. The SRO stipulates that most of the games would have to pay a tax rate of around 5%. However, indie games as such on their platform would receive a tax rebate such that it was almost negligible. That means to say that the amount of money paid out by the platform to the companies, accounts this week, would increase the system funds to over 4,000. What would that imply? That Pei Kaiyan earned an additional 4,000. On the contrary, he would have made a loss of 4,000. Initially, Pei Kaiyan would have made a clean profit of 50,000 to his personal wealth from the system funds that he had spent. With the additional 4,000 gained, he would have only made a net loss of 46,000. That would shrink his possible earnings from 50,000 to 46,000. And that's the least of his worries. The download volume was still climbing steadily. Each time Pei Kaiyan refreshed the platform, the numbers would jump once more, dozens at times, hundreds at others. Every increment was akin to rubbing salt on Pei Kaiyan's wounds. That's because however much he earned equates to a shrinking of his personal wealth gained. Furthermore, there were still 10 days to the next settlement date. If the download volume was to climb by 10-fold during this week. This is bad. Pei Kaiyan could no longer sit still. What's the meaning of this? Is the editor's back end bugged? How could such a trashy game get a couple thousands of downloads? Are you bloody messing with me? He was in disbelief as he hurriedly opened the official game's platform and searched for the comments section of the lonely desert road. To his astonishment, while the ratings had not changed much, the comments section had exploded with additional hundreds of new ones. Teacher Kaio's Sightseeing Group. Teacher Kaio's Sightseeing Group +1. I'm dying of laughter to think that such an anti-mankind game would actually exist. This has truly widened my perspective. I downloaded, I challenged, and I left in defeat after 5 minutes. 1 yuan isn't even worth my effort of asking for a refund. Let me leave a ball of spit before going, poo tooey. I recommended this game to my friend and told him he had to persevere to the end for an enormous surprise and Easter egg. Now my friend wants to cut off all ties with me. What should I do? Person who made the comment above, are you even human? I told my friend with absolute honesty that there's nothing at the end of the game but a black screen and a single statement. In fact, I told him word for word what the statement said, but guess what? He thought that I was lying to him and insisted on checking it out for himself. He still hasn't cleared the game, but he's already smashed 3 controllers. I think we're close to cutting off ties soon as well. Anyone knows the address of the creator? I'm just asking for fun so that I can mail him some special local products of mine. I suggest all of you should stop playing it and just check out Teacher Kaio's walkthrough. He recorded the entire 8 hours. Fu, I'm telling you, this game can truly invoke some realizations about how. That's something you won't experience through watching a video. Lie more. For real, Tripitaka had to go through 81 tribulations to obtain the sutras, isn't it? Do you think you can become a Buddha like Tripitaka just by watching Journey to the West alone? Pei Kaiyan was completely dazed. What the hell were all these? Where did these comments come from? Teacher Kaio's Sightseeing Group. Could some big V1 have taken a liking to him? Absolutely befuddled, Pei Kaiyan ran a search for Teacher Kaio online. Before long, he found Teacher Kaio's personal page on Potato Web and discovered a video that was posted a day earlier. Trash Games Dis Episode 64. I spent 8 hours continuously just to clear a trashy game, only to find. The number of views had already broken through 200,000. Pei Kaiyan was speechless. He seemed to have found the culprit.